Hey everyone, the name is Kris Barocsi and welcome to Gear Corner. Today we're checking out the Peavey Decade preamp pedal, which is kind of new. It came out this year at the NAMM show and now it's shipping, so I wanted to grab one and test it in like a more relaxed environment. It has a cult status, which is always funny if we're talking about something that's so affordable. I mean, the original 80s combo was a practicing combo, like a beginner's amp, basically. And then because of Josh from Queens of the Stone Age, this amp became some sort of an alternative stoner rock legend. There's the current version of the Decade amp, which is called the Decade 2. And they also released this pedal, which is the preamp pedal. And there are two very important things about this before we even get into details and stuff. The first is that it will not immediately make you sound like Josh. So if all you want is to sound like that tiny combo, maybe you should go for the amp and not the preamp pedal. Second important thing is that it's much nicer sounding than the amp. So the preamp pedal is much more versatile, and if you connect it a certain way, we'll talk about it, it just sounds nicer and more expensive than the actual tiny combo, the Decade combo. Let's listen to this track that I wrote and recorded with the Decade preamp. It's gonna be my ES330L, which is essentially a 335, but it's full hollow, so it has PEF humbuckers and the normal 335 things. Going into the Decade preamp pedal, then into the effects return of the Rev Joey Landreth Edition D25 combo, and then I go into the aux box for a 2x12 Alnico speaker loaded cab simulation. Hit like and subscribe if you enjoy these videos. That would help me a lot. Let's get into it. The first way of using the Decade, and that's what I'm doing right now, that's what you've heard in this little song snippet, is putting it in the effects loop. Now, if the guitar still goes into the input of the amp, which is what I'm doing now, and then you have something like the Decade preamp in the effects loop, then this is how your signal chain looks like. The guitar goes into the amps preamp, which is the Rev preamp right now. It's clean. This is how that sounds like. And then there's the Decade in the effects loop. So sits between the Rev preamp and the Rev's own power amp. That is a strange way of using it, actually. I just tried it and it sounds so good. It's the most balanced sound that I was able to get with it. So I just stick to it. you can use this as your only and actual preamp. So you can go with your guitar into the Decade, and then from the Decade's output into the effects return of your amp, which disengages the amp's own preamp. And now it's in front of the clean amp. So it's the guitar going into the Decade, and that functions as a drive pedal basically. The signal goes from the pedal into the clean channel of the Rev D25 Joey Landreth Edition. So if your plan is to sound as close as possible to the tiny original combo, the Decade combo, then I guess using the preamp pedal as an overdrive in front of a clean amp is the easiest way to go, because the pedal just sounds thinnest and most like a small combo this way. And that is definitely interesting to know about, because if you just want a nice preamp with a nice amount of low end as well, don't try this as an overdrive. Don't put it in front of a clean amp. Put it in the effects loop, or pair it with like I don't know, the power stage, I think it's called, those Seymour Duncan power amps, or anything in that ballpark. That will probably get you closest to a very much balanced, nice and sort of higher end sounding saturated sound. My thoughts on the Decade preamp pedal. Well, first of all, it prefers to be a preamp as opposed to it being an overdrive. I'm saying that because the EQ, the amount of low end and mid range and all the frequencies tend to be more balanced if the pedal is being used as a preamp. Some preamp pedals sound equally balanced and great as an overdrive pedal and as a preamp. This one is one of those that, to me, kind of wants to sit in the effects loop, or like in front of the straight in front of the power amp, which is totally fine. It's just something that I think is important to understand if you want to make this sound fuller than the small combo. If you're into the small amp sound, then of course you can just put it in front of a clean amp and it will sound just like that. So that's really cool. The second thing is that I think this is much more versatile than the combo, because they also brought out the combo, which you can of course use with a bigger cab to make it sound big. which is great, but it still has its limitations because of it being a small amp and not very loud. You will mostly want to use something like that in the studio or to record stuff and not that much live, as opposed to this, the Decade preamp, which can be a part of any rig. It can be a small rig, recording rig, a rehearsal rig, your huge arena live rig, whatever, you know, however big your power amp is and however loud your rig is, this can give its signature sound, and you can just incorporate it in that rig. Then again, if you're into that specific sound, the combo will get you there, because that's much more than just a preamp. It also has the enclosure, the speaker, the power amp, everything that's, you know, that's involved in an amplifier that will get you closer to that signature sound. This is something that gets you close, but is not gonna be like an identical sound with those, you know, famous songs and riffs and all those things. All right, let me know in the comments below how you like the sounds, and if you want to know anything about it, let me know. I'll be there checking those comments out, and see you in another video. Bye bye.